there is also an extremely confusing position that they are hiring for, which they call the Servant Leader Program. And they write, the Servant Leader Program at his mansion is a ministry of walking among the broken and wounded in the power and love of Christ. So right at the start, they state that the Servant Leader Program is a ministry. The definition of a ministry is the work or vocation of a minister of religion. And that is an extremely odd thing to write. It is very confusing because the servant leader employment opportunity appears to be an entry-level position which doesn't require any education or experience in that field. So I do not think that qualifies them to be a minister that should be counseling mental health patients. And they write, servant leaders make a 6, 9, or 12-month commitment to serve our residents in a 24/7 environment while receiving one-on-one mentoring, classroom training, and group processing to help meet this challenge spiritually, emotionally, and relationally. And then it says, click to learn more. So before we continue on, let's repeat that. Servant leaders make a 6, 9, or 12-month commitment to serve our residents in a 24/7 environment. And as everyone knows, 24/7 means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they kind of like sneak that in there. But let's state for the record that if any of you apply there and are lucky enough to get hired as a servant leader, it says you will be hired to serve the residents at all times in a 24/7 environment. Servant leader role description, and I quote, servant leaders are one of the most important members of the His Mansion team. They are essential to the His Mansion's mission of seeing lost men and women come to know and follow Jesus Christ. Servant leaders live and work alongside the residents at His Mansion, modeling commitment to the Lord and love for others. Servant leaders provide support, guidance, and accountability for residents as they progress through the program. So that might sound normal enough, but then under qualifications, the website states, servant leaders at His Mansion do not need to be perfect, but the following qualifications must be present in a person who serves as a servant leader at His Mansion Ministries. And they write a list: commitment to Jesus Christ, desire for others to know Jesus Christ, desire to grow in Jesus Christ, humility, compassion. And then it says, willingness to take risks and willingness to be challenged. So at this mental hospital where you may be applying for work, the staff and the directors want to encourage you to take risks. So taking risks might be a guideline if you're applying to work in some retarded Wall Street stock trading ring. But taking risks is probably something you do not want to encourage new employees to do at a mental health facility. Then under the heading of responsibilities, they write love. Servant leaders are called to love residents every day. They are called to build relationships with residents and be committed to their good. This kind of love ought to shape everything a servant leader does and says. Loving the residents may look like counting them as more important than yourself, listening to them without making assumptions or needing to have an answer, being present with them in their pain and uncertainty, affirming their identity in Jesus Christ and the growth that is seen in them, challenging them to do things they may not want to do, for example, work, speaking into areas of sin and unbelief for their greater good, and praying with and for them. Then, under the category of modeling, His Mansion begins to write things in a very strange way that seems to put a lot of burden onto this entry-level position while putting into words ideas that seem to carry a double meaning. Under modeling, they write, servant leaders model a life of dependence on Christ, moment by moment. Residents look to servant leaders to see what following Jesus can look like in daily life. So I believe what they mean to say is that servant leaders will set an example to the residents how to depend on Jesus Christ from moment to moment. However, the way they have it written almost sounds like servant leaders are supposed to become some sort of Jesus figure that the residents can look to and then see what following Jesus can look like in daily life. Then under the category oversight, the His Mansion website writes, servant leaders oversee and supervise residents in daily dorm life, on work crews, and other program activities. Servant leaders are to monitor and be mindful of the behaviors and attitudes of residents, paying special attention to their safety. So servant leaders are expected to be responsible in monitoring and supervising the residents at all times, during work hours and in program activities, and even in the dorm where everyone goes when they have time off from work or from programs or from classes to rest or to spend some time alone. So even there in the dorms, the servant leaders are expected to still supervise everyone else. Then, under the title support, the website states, servant leaders receive support and guidance from the Servant Leaders Formation Department through the following: weekly mentoring, training and spiritual formation classes, biannual retreats, and regular reviews and feedback. So, while servant leaders are working to supervise the residents at all times, they will also have to attend training classes, weekly mentoring, biannual retreats, and be subject to regular reviews and feedback. So this is an extremely overworked and busy position to be hired for. Then under benefits, it says servant leaders receive the following benefits as they serve: $400 a month, full room and board, 10 vacation days, $100 a month tuition reimbursement program. So the 10 vacation days are 10 days off a year, I'm going to guess, which may seem alright unless you remember that they stated before that the servant leaders are expected to serve in a 24/7 environment. So servant leaders are given 10 days off per year while being employed to serve 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Under the job description, His Mansion basically states that the servant leader is going to have to be available at all times, at work, in programs, and also during dormitory hours. So servant leaders are expected to even act as dorm monitors all through the night, always being available to serve whoever may be having an issue at all times. So that is a pretty hefty work schedule for $400 a month. If they were getting paid $10 an hour, they should be getting $240 a day, not counting overtime pay for that type of schedule. But instead, they're getting paid $13 a day to do that. And then on the to become a servant leader page, to really expose what the staff at His Mansion has in store for anyone unlucky enough to actually get a job as a servant leader at this facility. They have a quote, and they write, "But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave." So the staff at His Mansion is almost calling the servant leaders slaves. Then, under the heading, working with our resident, you will learn. And it says to take initiative with boldness and courage, to speak what is true in the face of fear, and to love the unloved. So once again, these are some very heavy guidelines for someone without any experience in mental health, psychology, or social work. This sort of guideline is outwardly telling an inexperienced person hired at an entry-level position to get involved with mental health patients at every opportunity, even if something is causing them fear or strong feelings of being unloved. The staff here is telling people with very little experience to go confront residents who are having serious mental problems, and they should go approach them with boldness and courage. So this is a very dangerous guideline to practice in a mental health facility where someone who is not trained with any type of degree to handle the more complex levels of mental health and safety is encouraged to get involved with absolute boldness and courage. To say the least, the directors at Hiss Mansion are placing too much responsibility on these entry-level servant leaders and then are influencing them to go confront mental health patients who may be having serious psychiatric issues. And this will eventually lead to some sort of meltdown. So most of this should be the responsibility of the staff who are hired to work at Hiss Mansion with bachelor's or master's degrees. Any other position there, they want either a bachelor's or a master's degree in psychology or social work. And these are the staff members that should be handling this. And these staff members probably get paid regular salaries and work regular shifts, like 8 hours a day, with nights, holidays, and weekends off, so they don't feel overworked and then go crazy and put the whole mental health facility in jeopardy. So people hired with bachelor's or master's degrees in psychology or social work are prepared to handle mental patients who may be having a problem late at night. So the people running this place and coming up with these plans seem to be not only corrupt, but psychotic. And this facility should be shut down for them even coming up with something as crazy as this. Because this plan, this mental facility blueprint, it must conflict with some sort of health and safety issues. It must conflict with some sort of health and safety laws. Then, if the job description for servant leaders isn't crazy enough, under the heading, "We will stand with you," it says, "Our Christian formation leadership will facilitate and provide support, spiritual encouragement, and training in your role, as well as in your personal transformation into Christ likeness." So they are saying that along with doing your job to assist people with psychiatric problems, the Christian formation leadership will help transform you into someone like Jesus Christ. So if this was a normal facility, they may write something like that while working here, you'll earn a certificate as a mental health coach or something like that. But instead, they write that this place will help transform you into Christ likeness. And if that makes sense to any of you, here's an idea. Next time you go apply somewhere, write under job description that you just spent the last year somewhere being transformed into Christ likeness. Write that down and see how many places will want to call you back and then give you a job.